Hi, folks. Welcome to Earth Science with at Simmons College. Some of you guys that have been here before, welcome back to school. It's kind of a crazy way to go back to school, but that's the way it is. For some of you newbies, welcome to Simmons College, and I'm sure there's a reason that you chose the college. I tell you, I've been teaching there now about 3 years, and it's really an amazing place. So, if this is your first set of classes, your first semester, welcome to Simmons. I think you'll really enjoy it. Some of the folks that are here that are teaching are pretty amazing. So, welcome to the school and welcome to class. So, this is SCI 102. This is Earth Science. So I teach all the stuff that is not covered in the life sciences. So you may have taken life sciences already, or you're going to take life science. So I'll teach everything that's not life science. Although we will be talking quite a bit about organisms, that sort of thing. So they're all kind of interrelated. But earth science, I think when people hear about it, they think about a bunch of rocks. That's I do like rocks, and we'll be looking at a lot of rocks. But there's a lot more to it. A lot more to it. Pretty much everything you see, everything you smell, everything you look at, everything that you're walking on, all that has to do with earth science. So it's a huge chunk of material. We could spend a year or so going over all of it. Of course, we won't, but we will pick out some of the important stuff and go over that. So again, welcome to class. My name is Tim Baker. I guess I didn't say that. And I'll be your professor. I'm not a doctor, so please don't call me doctor. But I do have a master's in education and a master's in education administration. So I was thinking about becoming a principal. Before I got into education, I've been doing that now for about 15 years or so. I taught in middle school, I've taught in high school, I've taught in college, I've taught elementary, so I've kind of run the gamut in terms of what I've taught. I enjoy teaching science, although I have taught some other subjects. Right now, I'm doing some substituting for JCPS and a couple other school districts. I'm also doing some education in botanical gardens. So I'm kind of a plant geek as well as a rock geek. I may do one of my videos out in the garden one of these days. But so I've been doing this quite a while. Before teaching, I was in construction, did a lot of commercial construction, and actually have another degree. My undergraduate degree is in architecture. So I dabbled in that for a while until I realized I like being outside more than being inside. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married. I got two grown boys. And so I think one of the pictures on the website will show us all as a family at Barringer Crater. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Again, this is all new to, I think, all of us. It's going to feel kind of clumsy for a while, and I apologize for that. I am kind of a technology guy, but this is a little bit more technology than I've ever had to deal with. So I'm going to work on it. Please, I apologize ahead of time for the mistakes I'm going to make. But feel free to let me know what's working, what's not working, what you need more information on, and I'll definitely be available for that. So all my contact information is on the syllabus, and you should have a copy of the syllabus on Canvas. So if you want to make a hard copy of that, or just keep a copy of it, that's fine. But we will go over the syllabus here in just a few minutes, and I'll pull that up. So again, contact me, let me know what's going on, and if there's a problem or something. Communication is the main thing. I tell you, every time students get in trouble, or every time there's a problem, or every time there's a kind of a miscommunication, the problem always comes down to, letting me know or letting a professor know in any class really, kind of what's going on, what you need help with. Usually we can help. I mean, if somebody waits till the last minute and, it could have been dealt with earlier, sometimes, we can be uh, a little unsure about that. But for the most part, just let us know. I mean, we're here to help. That's kind of what we're. It's one of the reasons why we're here. So let us know. And it doesn't have to be about science. It could be about whatever is kind of getting in the way of science. A lot of times you got homework to do, or you got things to do, and other things are getting in the way. Well, that's important. We need to know about that. So let us know about that. All right. So I'm going to spend some time now kind of going through the syllabus. And what I'm going to do is kind of pull it up, and it may cover me up. But here's the syllabus. And again, you should see this in Canvas, and you should be able to get to it. That way, if you want a hard copy, you can copy it. But you should be able just to kind of follow along with me here. Or if you've got it, you can follow along. So anyway, there's the contact information for me. It tells you a little bit about the course. It's a 3-credit-hour course, and we do have a room that we're supposed to meet in, but until I hear otherwise, we won't do that. Now, it really drives me nuts that I can't see you guys or get with you guys. So hopefully in the near future, we can have some sort of way of, if you want to be on campus and you want to meet with me personally, we can probably work that out. So let's just cross our fingers and hope things calm down and we can do that. And maybe even if things go really well, we could actually meet as a class. But let me know if like I said, if it's driving you nuts and you just really can't cope unless you're talking to me personally or whatever. We'll work it out. But please let me know. All right. There's the course description. Tells you a little bit about what we're going to do. But again, it's a very limited description. It would probably take 4 or 5 pages to talk about all this stuff. So I won't do that. Course objectives are basically science objectives. We're going to be looking at theories of all the different systems. And when I talk about systems, I'm talking about Earth systems. We're talking about things like the water system, air, rocks, again, rock cycle, all that sort of thing. Our systems, they all work together, and we'll take a look at how that all fits together. One thing usually doesn't happen without something else happening as well. Using scientific techniques, we're going to be talking about a lot of these techniques and how we do science. If nothing else in this class, I want you to come out of it with a better understanding of how scientists do science, because science is under attack in some cases. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, and we can talk about as much as you want in discussion if you wish. But science got us where we are. I mean, we don't live in caves anymore, and we don't ride horses and drive cars because of science. So we need to take that seriously, and we need to learn how it happens. It's not magic. I often tell folks to pull out your cell phone and tell me how it works. And they don't have a clue. I mean, yeah, they can tell me how to operate it, but they don't have a clue how it works. And if I gave you all the parts for a cell phone and told you to make one, you couldn't do that either. So it's not magic, although a lot of times we think of it that way. But I want you to be aware of how science works, how we got where we got, and I think you'll have a better understanding of how we do that. We'll look at how this course deals with things that are what we call abiotic, not living, but all the students in this class are living. So one of the important things is to understand how these abiotic things, these non-living things like rocks and air and water, how they affect us as people, right? I mean, what would be the point of having a class if it didn't deal with how it affects us? So that's really the big understanding of why we want to understand. Why do we understand the rock cycle? Why do we want to understand the water cycle? Why do we understand, air pollution and things like that? Is because it affects us. So that's why this bullet is in there. And lastly, to develop a scientific ethic. um, to kind of look at the world as a scientist looks at the world. Human beings, us, we people, we're natural scientists because in science, all scientific investigation begins with questions. And one of the reasons we have big brains and climbed out of the trees years ago, many millions of years ago, is because we asked a lot of questions. And so that's kind of the impetus of science, and we want to learn how to kind of harness that. Okay. Learning objectives are there. You can kind of read those. We're going to do some reading in this class. We're going to do some writing in this class. As you have probably already found out, that's what a lot of college is, reading and writing. So we'll do a lot of that in this class, and then hopefully we'll have some time and some abilities to do some discussion because that's important. So anyway, here's the credit hour statement that I had to put in there. Now here's the schedule, and here's the textbook. Everybody needs to have this textbook. It's called Earth, Portrait of a Planet, and there's several editions. I'm working off the 5th edition. There is a 6th edition, and there may even be a 7th. I'm sure there's a 6th. The 6th edition, if you want to use it, you can, but it's very expensive because I think it's the newest one. But the 5th edition is perfectly fine. If you want a hard copy of this thing, I was on eBay just a little while ago, and there's quite a few of them that you can buy for less than $10. With shipping, it's around $10. So if you really want a hard copy of this, and some people like me, I like a book. I like to have it in my hand and thumb through the pages. It drives me crazy doing this on a computer, but so I like the book. But you can get them at, like I said, on eBay for $10. They'll ship them to you, and you can have them in a week or so. In the meantime, I will give you a copy, a digital copy. So I'll give you a digital copy, and you can use that if you want. If you want the one online, go ahead and get it. And if you do buy the book, let me know at the end of class. If you don't want it anymore, I can probably buy it back from you because I loan those out all the time. And I had a bunch of them I loaned out, but when this pandemic thing hit and in the middle of class, I kind of lost all the ones I'd loaned out. So I don't have a hard copy to loan out now. But like I said, at the end of class, if you do buy one for $10, it may look pretty beat up, but it still reads okay. I can probably buy that back from you if you need some cash. So just let me know. There are some supplemental texts, and I'll put some on there. I've got a book, a really great book that if you just want to do some reading, it's by an author named Bill Bryson. It's called A Short History of Nearly Everything, and it's really a great book. I'll put all the information on there a little bit later. It's like I said, textbooks are pretty great, not much fun to read. They're great for getting information, but not much fun to read. Bill Bryson's a great writer, and so he kind of puts things in words and phrases and things that are a lot more fun to read. So that's one I would recommend, and I can give you some more if you're interested in that. Again, here's the schedule. We are supposed to meet twice a week, so I've got that down as twice a week, and I'm put the schedule together just as if we were meeting in a classroom. And so I'll be sending stuff out, just like I said, as we'll be meeting in a classroom. So I'll expect you to be online in some capacity on Monday, August 17th. I expect you to get online, and if you're reading the book, go ahead and read that chapter. If you're turning in work, that sort of thing. So I'll be doing this just like we were actually meeting in a classroom. So there's all the dates. And again, we've got days off, like Labor Day and things like that. But and again, you can work ahead if you want to. The big no is don't get behind. And this happens all the time. I've got, and everybody's different, I know. And I'm lazy as anybody, and I'm a procrastinator. So, but the thing is, don't get behind. There is an enormous amount of work here, and if you do a little bit at a time, it's not bad. But if you get behind and you try to catch up, it's going to be it's going to be a nightmare. All right. So we got the midterm scheduled for the 2nd of October, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit, how the exams are going to work. Um, and then again, the last day to withdraw, if you get your test back and you're not keeping up and you're having problems, that's the 16th of October. So make sure you mark that down. I don't want anybody to get stuck and if you need to withdraw. All right. Finally, at the end of this, everything's due on Monday, November 23rd. That's the last day of class. So all quizzes, all science inquiry papers, all that stuff is due, and the class project is due. And I'll talk about the project here in just a minute. Our final, the final for all the finals, the window opens December 3rd. Now, that's a Thursday. We would normally have met on a Wednesday, but I want to give you plenty of time to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the final on the 3rd, which is the first day we can. I'll release it on the 1st, but you'll have to turn it in on the 3rd. So that'll be the final. That'll be the last thing you turn in on December 3rd. All right. So that's our schedule as it is, unless things change, and I'll let you know. Course grading goes something like this. You'll get 50 points for attendance, 75 points for the quizzes. And again, this is if you do all that are required. 75 points for inquiry papers, and I'll talk about those. 100 points for the project. Midterms 100, and the final is 200, giving you a total points of 600 points. So that's kind of how I'll do things, is on a point scale. You can kind of do the percentage. You got to meet. You got to get 60% to pass. So the way that breaks down, you can see if you attend all the classes, if you do all the quizzes, you do the inquiry paper, and you do the project, you can screw up the midterm and the final pretty bad and still pass the class. So I'm not a very good test taker either, but again, it's all about effort, and those who put in the effort will get rewarded. So let's talk about some of these things, specifically attendance. So normally you get 2 points for every class that you come to, and then if you skipped a class, you wouldn't get those 2 points. And so that 50 points at the end of the grading period, that may bump you from a B to an A, or it may bump you down from a B to a C. If you don't do it. So it's not a huge number of points in the grand scheme of things, but it's going to put you over the edge if you're right on it. So here's how we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do attendance. What I want you to do is, for each day that we have class, you will send me an email just letting me know that you're online. So that first day of class, what did I say it was, the 17th or something like that? That first day of class, you'll send me an email and just tell me who you are and that you're online, and I will then give you your 2 points. And just do that for every class. Send me an email. It just takes 10 seconds to send me an email. You don't have to actually do anything that day. I mean, if you're busy working or whatever, and you need to do the quiz for that particular chapter, and you want to do that quiz the next day, that's fine. Maybe Mondays are bad for you, but Tuesdays, you have Tuesdays off, and you can do all your work on Tuesdays. That's fine. Just on Monday, shoot me an email telling me you're here, and then go ahead and do your quizzes and stuff on Tuesday and get those turned in. But again, don't get behind. Don't get behind. So send me an email that on that day. Now, if you send me an email on Tuesday saying you wanted to count for Monday, it won't count. If Monday was the day that we were supposed to have class, and you didn't send me an email on Monday, you don't get those 2 points. So make sure you write those dates down and you keep up with them. All right. Quizzes and inquiry papers. So the quizzes, I'm calling them quizzes. They're actually chapter review questions. They're located in your textbook at the end of each chapter. So chapter 1 starts on about page 12 somewhere, I think, and then there's a bunch of reading and stuff like the pictures and things. And then by the time you get to page 35, I believe, That's the end of the chapter. You'll see some uh, other things back there, but one of the sections at the very end of the chapter are something called review questions. Now, I'm only asking you to do 5 questions for each chapter. So for like chapter 1, there might be 20 questions. Well, you just have to pick out 5 and do them, answer the questions. You don't have to do all 20. And you can pick out any 5 you want. You pick out the first 5, the last 5, you can, whatever in between. Just let me know what question you're answering. And also make sure you answer them in complete sentences. If the question is, why is the sky blue? You don't start out your answer with because. You start out your answer with the sky is blue because, and then you answer the question. So that's kind of the format I'd like for you to do there. Now, the inquiry papers, and I've got a little thing that will help to clarify this a little bit more. But let me just give you the idea behind an inquiry paper. So an inquiry paper is essentially designed to get you out of the textbook and to get you to read some other things online. So there might be an article on volcanoes. Maybe you like volcanoes, and you find an article on the internet about volcanoes. You can read that article and then do a science inquiry paper on that and turn that in and get 15 points. It doesn't have to be online. It might have been in a magazine. It might have been in a book. You might have been watching National Geographic on TV, and there was an interesting story in there about diamonds. So you could do your science inquiry paper on that show on National Geographic. Now, there's a certain format you have to follow, and I'll make sure you get that information. But I just want you to be aware that that's what these are. You have to do 5 of them. They're 15 points each. So you got to do 5 of them. And then for the quizzes and the papers, you can do one extra one for extra credit. So if you're kind of bombed the midterm and you want to do an extra inquiry paper, you can get an extra 15 points. And that might help, like I said, if you mess up something. So you can do an extra one for extra credit. But you'll have the information on that, how to do those. And again, if they're a little confusing, let me know and I'll help you out. And I can even give you some lists of articles online that you can use to do those with. Now the project. Excuse me. The project is important because I want you to do science. I thought about taking it out because we are doing everything online. And it's very difficult to kind of explain things and answer questions and walk you through it online. So what I've done is I've kind of made it a little simpler, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later. Before it was a pretty big project with a big paper at the end of it. Now I'm going to make it a little bit simpler, so it's a little bit easier to do, but at the same time, it's still science. And so the project is, you're going to actually do science. You're going to ask a question, you remember from middle school, the scientific method. You're going to go through the whole thing. And if you did science fairs in middle school and high school, then this will be a piece of cake. If you were a sports nut and didn't do all that stuff, then I'll help you with it and we'll definitely get through it. But we are going to do a project. You are going to have to turn in your project at the end of class. And again, this is one of those things where if you're not comfortable with this, if this kind of frightens you a little bit about doing all of that, start early, okay? Don't wait. Start early. And I'll be in touch with everybody and make sure we kind of go step by step through it. But we will do a project for class, and it is worth 100 points. So please take it seriously. Now, the midterms and finals. Here it explains that they are essay questions. So all my finals, all my midterms and finals are essay questions. Now, normally when we took them in class, you had an hour or an hour and 15 minutes to do the final, but I made it open note. So you were taking notes in class, and then when you got ready to take the test, you could use your notes. Now that we're doing it at home or wherever you're doing it, you can still use your notes, obviously, and you can also use textbooks or whatever else. And I'm giving you a couple days to do it. So I'll release it about 2 or 3 days before it's due, and then you'll do the test, and then you'll make sure you send it back to me completed before that time. Um, a couple of things I have to super remind you about plagiarism. So when you do something like this, there's the danger that someone's going to cut and paste, and someone's going to copy something from the internet. Um, please, 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 please don't do that. Please don't do that. I know what it looks like. I've got software on my computer. Like I said, I've been teaching for years, teaching high school students. So I've got stuff on my computer that all I got to do is put in some phrases from your answer, and it will go online and find those phrases if they exist, if you copied them from somewhere. So please, please don't do that. But I do want you to answer them to the best of your ability, with your own answer. Now, here's the way this kind of works. Normally, because they were doing it in class for an hour and 15 minutes, nobody could finish the test. I mean, it was just a test where you could pick the questions you want to answer. And different questions were worth different amounts of points. One question might be kind of easy and worth 10 points. Another question might be more difficult and have a lot of parts to it. It might be worth 40 points. So students could pick and choose. You can still do that if you want. But now you've got more time. You really could theoretically go through and answer all the questions. So it was designed to kind of find out what you know. It was designed to go through all the content. So like I said, if you knew a lot about volcanoes and you could answer all the volcano questions, get lots of points, maybe you didn't know that much about earthquakes. And so when you got to the earthquake section, you didn't answer those questions, but you still got enough points to pass the test. So I know it's a little confusing, but we'll figure it out. But that's kind of the way that's going to work. So you will have a couple days to work on it. It is all essay. So you'll send that back to me. And again, December 3rd will be the last day for the final. There's the grading scale again with points in terms of A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's. Again, anything below 354 points, I believe it is a failing grade. So keep your eye on that. So anyway, here's all the course policies, class attendance, all that sort of thing. Again, I put all this boilerplate stuff got put in there. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Again, there's the thing on plagiarism. Everybody knows what that is, right? And the school takes it very, very seriously. You can be thrown out of school for that. So please take that very, very seriously. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we went over the syllabus. I've talked about attendance. I'm looking at my notes here. I've talked about attendance. I've talked about turning in assignments. So turning in assignments, again, I've never worked with this Canvas before. They say there's a way to turn in stuff on Canvas, but I'd like to keep it as open as possible. So if you want to turn stuff in on Canvas, you can. If you want to send me emails, you can. But please make it something that I can open. Like sometimes there's this stuff that you got to sign up for and you got to do passwords and stuff. I'm not going to go through all that. So send me a Word document, send me a Google Doc, something like that. But don't get into this stuff where I've got to get permissions and so try to send it to me so I can see it. All right. And again, if you don't have any of that stuff, if you're doing it on paper, take a picture of it. Send me the picture. All right. We've talked a little bit about the tests. We'll talk more about the project and the tests. So one of my notes here says how to pass this class. Because a lot of times that's a question everybody says, I'm a music person. You tell me I'm a music person. I don't care that much about science. I just have to take this class. And I understand everybody's got to take the class. How do I pass the class? Well, again, I'm going to try to make it interesting. I'm going to try to make it relevant as best I can. But if you're just in the class to pass it, my advice to you is just turn in your work. You don't have to go the extra mile. You don't have to be interested in the stuff. Just do the work, do the reading, turn in the work, and you'll be fine. The tests are comprehensive, but you'd really have to just completely ignore everything to fail the test. Okay, so if you've been doing the readings, you've been doing the quizzes, you've been doing the science inquiry papers, when I give you the midterm, it won't be that hard. Okay, and the final the same way. So that's how you pass. Keep up. If you're going to put things off till the end, if you're going to not send emails and let me know what's going on, and then halfway through class, all of a sudden try to catch up, you're going to be in trouble. It's not going to be a lot of fun. So that's how you pass the class. It's really pretty easy. It's just a question of keeping up. There was probably some other stuff I wanted to tell you, but I've got a spiel I do about the school and about science. In other words, Simmons College is a religious college. Simmons College is a church-affiliated college. Science and church historically have been a little bit at odds, okay? So when the Renaissance hit in the late 15th century in Europe, Galileo builds a telescope and he begins to look at the planets. And for a long time, the church adopted Greek ideas that the earth was in the middle and everything rotated around the earth, which makes sense. I mean, if you're looking at the sky, everything's going around us. We must be in the middle, right? And everything's spinning around us. Scientists began to find out that's not true. Some astronomers actually were killed because of what they believed in. Galileo, who puts the first telescope together and actually draws the first pictures of the moons of Jupiter and sees the rings of Saturn for the first time, he's got a problem because his sister's a nun. So he is following the lead of some of the other ones like Kepler and who says, in fact, the earth is not in the middle. The sun's in the middle. The earth goes around the sun. He has to recant. And this goes on and on. I mean, we can talk about evolution. We can talk about all these other different kinds of ideas. And now, of course, climate change all becomes political when religion kind of gets mixed up in science. So now, one of my masters, or at least I was a few hours short of a master's. I went to the seminary. I thought I wanted to work at the church, work for the church, and I did for a while. So how does a person who works for the church, how do they become a science teacher? In other words, how do I reconcile this idea of should I believe the church or should I believe science? And I've struggled with that for a long, long time. And there may be some of you who are struggling with that idea. Let me just kind of explain kind of where I'm at on that. So this is a science class. Everything we talk about in this class is based on science. It's not based on religion. That's a different class. Religion, and I'm a religious person. I teach Sunday school. I go to church. But religion is based on faith. And faith, by definition, even the Bible defines faith as the evidence of things not seen. All right, it's believing in something that you can't prove. Right, you can't go to court and say, I believe this without any evidence. They'll throw you out. Science works the same way. You can't say, I believe, that trees are green because somebody's got a green crayon and colors the leaves green. There's no evidence for that, right? And so science deals with pure evidence, pure fact. It burns everything else away. All the, I wish trees were purple. I wish trees were taller. I wish trees were whatever. That's not the fact. That's not science. And so science deals with facts. Science deals with evidence. The thing about science is if the evidence isn't there, then there's no science there, right? I mean, we haven't discovered that. For example, this pandemic that we're in is a perfect example of what's happening. When this thing first comes out, we know absolutely nothing about it. And so it was interesting to me to watch as information was being discovered and science was being done, and science was being done over and over and over, and we were finding out new and new and new things. And so first they were telling us don't wear masks, and they're saying do wear masks. I mean, but that's all got to do with science. And some people argue that, well, you made a mistake or you were wrong. No, we weren't wrong. In science, the evidence that you have at the time is the evidence you have at the time. And that's what you decide. That's what you think it is. But as you get more evidence, it will change. Your conclusions will change. That's the beauty of science, right? It doesn't stay the same. It's not based on what my parents believed, or it's not based on what someone else is telling me to believe. It's based on pure evidence, okay? And so that's kind of how I separate the two. Science is pure evidence. It doesn't conflict with the Bible. It doesn't conflict with my religious belief, because my religious belief is a belief, right? It's based on faith. There is no evidence whatsoever that there's a heaven, right? But my belief, my hope, is that there is a heaven. There is no scientific evidence whatsoever there is a God, but my faith tells me that I believe in God. So that's how I put the two together. They're not in conflict because they're in two different ballparks. Okay, they're two entirely different things. And I think one of the problems people have, religious people especially, are trying to meld those two things together. They're trying to make religion that happened a long time ago, or beliefs that were created a long time ago, or put together a long time ago. They're trying to make those meld with newer and newer and newer scientific understandings, and it's not possible. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, you may not agree, you may, and I'd love to talk. I'd love to have, again, that's why I wish we had class. I'd love to debate this in class and talk about this in class. And hopefully maybe if things calm down, we'll be able to do that. But I just wanted to let you know, this class is science, all right? And I'm going to say things, and you're going to read things in the book that may irritate you. You may say, well, I don't believe that. The Earth is 4.6 billion years old. And you may say, well, I don't believe that. Well, from a religious standpoint, maybe you don't believe it. From a scientific standpoint, it's a fact. And so I'm going to teach that. Maybe one of these days you will believe that. But for the most part, I want you to be aware this is a science class. And I would challenge you, if this is troubling for you, I would challenge you to think about it. I would challenge you to let your guard down a little bit and think about some of these ideas. I don't think science really should affect anyone's faith. It really shouldn't, if your faith is strong. So I would encourage you to kind of mull it over, because again, science is about fact. So if the facts aren't there, there's no science there. And that's kind of what we're going to be looking at. So anyway, it's going to be a really fun course. It's going to be a very interesting course because we are going to make, I'm going to make lots of mistakes trying to do all this. And just putting this video together took me a couple days to figure out how to do it. So I'm going to be going slowly, and again, I'll be behind probably, but just bear with me. And again, communication is the key. Communicate, communicate, communicate. If you've got a problem, if you're missing something, if you need help, let me know, and I will be available. All right? Have a good day, and I will see you next time.